I Love Mortgage Brokering, episode 42.
Want to learn from the top 5% of mortgage brokers in the country? Then you have come to the right place. Join Scott Peckford on I Love Mortgage Brokering.
Hi, Broker Nation. I am thrilled to introduce our guest today. Camilo Rodriguez is a mortgage broker with Mortgages Lab. He's based out of Burnaby. He's been a broker for 12 years and speaks 3 languages, but promises he's going to talk in English to us today. Camilo, are you ready to rock?
You betcha.
Awesome. So can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, came to Canada in 1997. I've had the opportunity to live in other countries, and I'm telling you, living in Canada and especially in Vancouver is awesome. It's a great city, a great place. And I started working in my background is electrical engineering, so I started working in that field. But that wasn't my passion, so I switched later to being a financial advisor, and I was prospecting for insurance, and at that time I met a top producer at TD, a great mortgage professional, one of the best in my opinion, Dennis Siegel. He was working for TD Bank, and we had a brief interview over lunch, and we ended up moving to TD, and that's how I started in mortgages. So I did that for 3 years, working with basically new construction, and then I switched it to New Lending Center franchise origin, and I worked there for a few years, 4 years, and I started my own company, Mortgages Lab, in 2010.
Wow,
that's
your how you kind of got there. And so it must have been, I mean, if you came here, you had a government job, and then to give that up to go into commission sales, that must have been, how was that transition?
Oh, it's always a huge. You've got fears. You've got lots of fears because at the time I just recently married, so you want to have some security. But at the end of the day, I've always had a philosophy which is follow what I fear. So if I fear something, I know I have to do it because otherwise I will regret it in my life, and I hate regretting things. So if I fear something, I have to do it.
Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
Not yet.
No? Okay, maybe because you don't fear it. I fear it, and I haven't done it. So, but that's good advice. So, before I dive into your story, I always like to ask about a success quote that's impacted your life or business. And I love quotes because they distill an idea down into something that's portable, and you can take it with you. So, do you have a quote that's really impacted you?
Well, I think about this, and I think it's related to what I just said. Basically, it is failure is never quite so frightening as regret. And basically, my own life, one of the things that guide me always is when I am ready to die, if I have the opportunity to reflect about my life, I don't want to have any regrets. So that's my biggest fear. So at that time, I just want to say, well, this is what I did, and I tried everything I can. I did the best I could, so I don't have any regrets. So I'm ready to go.
Right. So it sounds like obviously the transition from being a government employee to becoming a financial advisor, and then leaving TD to become a mortgage broker. So more recently though, can you give an example of something that you were sort of feeling like, okay, I'm a little bit uneasy about this, and then you decided to do it anyway?
Yes. Well, in anything you do in life, as I tell my kids, at the beginning, it's uncomfortable. At the beginning, it's not easy. But if you do it over and over again, and you're trying to improve every time, it will become easier, and then it will become very easy to do. Things for other people may be very difficult. So it just the first step is always having the courage to do something. But as I said before, if I don't do it, it's always in the back of my mind. And I just need to do it regardless of the pain. That's what has guided me a lot of years.
Right. That's a really good way to live, though, because you're right. You look back and there's 2 types of regret. I've heard the type of regret trying and failing, which feels bad, but the other type of regret is worse, is when you didn't even try and you don't even know what would have happened. And so that stings more and lasts longer. So it sounds like every chance you get, you try to avoid that regret.
Oh, and I agree 100% with that. And I've failed a lot of times, but always over time, when you get later in life and you reflect about those things that you fail at, if you reflect about them, you always find a lesson that you had to learn. So at the end of the day, it's better to fail because you have learned lots of things, and that helps you, in whatever you're doing at the moment.
Right, that's good. I'd like to switch gears now a little bit and talk about failure. I know that me as a mortgage broker and entrepreneur, I've definitely failed at things, but looking back, there's always a lesson. So failure is not fatal. So can you share an example of something that maybe you had tried that didn't work the way you had hoped, but looking back now there was a lesson in it for you?
Well, one thing that I've always had to improve is that I am, for me, and I think for a lot of sales professionals, it's easy to say yes, and it's difficult to say no. And I remember one time where they really pushed me, like somebody was trying to push me into something. It was unfortunately a real estate agent kind of asked me, about a letter of employment, what the letter of employment needed to say. And I go, well, it needs to say what the truth is, what is the income of the applicant. And so you get that feeling that, the documentation was not going to be proper. And I went back with all my, because you don't want to lose the realtor relationship. But I went back to him and said, listen, if I have any reasons to believe that this documentation is not accurate or correct, I'm going to go back to the employer and request for the confirmation, or I'm going to warn the bank that I have my doubts. So he didn't like that, but I stood my ground. And for me, it taught me a big lesson. It taught me a big lesson because it made me reflect about where my values are, and for me, that has got me a lot in my life. I just know what truly your values are.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. That's great. I always tell people, you can't trust somebody who will lie for you, because you just think about it, you say, trust me, I'll lie for you, because I just showed you how trustworthy I am by saying I'll lie to them, but I'm going to tell you the truth. But I don't believe anybody. if they'll lie to them, they'll lie to you. So you can't trust anything they say after that.
And that is something that is kind of old-fashioned, but maybe I'm getting older and I'm putting way more attention to them than before. But what really was really amazing is that same real estate agent, when his own son wanted to become a mortgage agent, he phoned me up because he wanted me to train that person. And I think even though he never referred me deals again in the future because of that, thing, he wanted his own son to have values, because everybody sees the value of having solid values.
Right. That's pretty funny, actually. So I noticed that successful mortgage brokers always have systems and processes. They don't just kind of show up and hope for the best, and they're willing to adjust and tweak those processes to get a better result. So I want to ask you about an administrative process, or something that sort of works in the back office that maybe wasn't working as well as you would have liked, and then a tweak that you made and the outcome that you got. Can you share that with us?
Well, I'm always kind of improving that area. It's an ongoing process. I used to have some, because of my engineering background, some standard thing for everything. But right now, for example, I have two sets of administrative or follow-up systems. One that is short-term while the application is going live, which is a little bit intensive and everything, and one that is long-term for either people who I do not do a mortgage with or for existing clients. So that helped me quite a bit on managing everything, and I'm just getting a little bit of a changing mindset. I don't want to think I am doing transactions or mortgage transactions. I am managing accounts. So even if I may not win a deal today with a person, that doesn't mean that we're not going to be doing business in the future. And in fact, by me trying to add value to that person all the time, even though I may not do the deal, in the future, that person comes back to me or send me referrals, which fund in business, right? So it's just having that mindset of always dealing with respect on people and try to work with them over the long term.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That's it. And being an engineer, obviously, you run everything runs on standard operating procedures. So you might as well take that mindset and philosophy and apply it to your business. And then one of the other guests I talked to a little while ago told me, they said, win the client, not the deal. And so, which is exactly what you're talking about, which is this idea that you may not win every deal, but if you win the client, then that'll be more valuable to you long term, because they become referral partners and, use you in the future. So that's fantastic.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, and I can't remember who said. I think it was maybe Dustin Woodhouse said that. So I'm going to ask now about a sales process, because the same thing. There's obviously administrative, but there's sales and marketing part of our business. And so, can you share maybe a sales or marketing part of your business that wasn't working as well as you would have liked, and then an adjustment you made, and then the outcome that you got?
A sales system that was not working very well. You know what? I've done so many things that have not worked, and at the end, you end up by default, I think doing the things that work. One thing that I had to improve a lot is how I communicate with different people. So I'll give you an example. I did a mortgage for a 22-year-old guy, really nice guy, but he would never want to talk to me on the phone. So he would email me stuff and ask me questions, and I tend to pick up the phone and wanted to tell him or over the phone, give him the answer, because it was sometimes it's faster or better, but he would never pick up the phone. I would leave a voice message, and then he would either email me back or text me. And then I would call him back, and I was getting frustrated because he never would pick up the phone. But then I understood that his preferred way of communication was texting and an email versus phone. And so I always am trying to be mindful of what is the best way to communicate with a customer. Some other people may prefer all the time that I call them and tell them what to do, what's going on, versus just sending them an standard email or text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like the younger generation really likes the texting and that like sort of electronic communication. But I like the phone call, and I like to talk to someone, because then if they have another question, they can answer it, and you're not kind of banging away on your phone trying to answer long questions when a 3-minute phone call would solve it. But yeah, you do have to be mindful of your client and try to, serve them the way they want to be served.
You betcha. That's correct.
So I've been hearing a recurring theme of the need to diversify income. And so there seems to be two camps. There's one camp that says, yes, you should diversify, get share of wallet. So you should be, cross-selling other products like a bank. And then there's another camp that says, no, just stick to being a mortgage broker. That's enough. So I just want to know where you fall in that. And then if you are diversifying, what area are you focusing on?
Well, you're right. There's two tendencies. One is diversifying income, and another one is focusing on something. In my opinion, if I had to choose from the two, I would choose focusing, because there's enough deals in mortgages for you to run out of hours in a day. So if you only stick to mortgages and do more and more mortgages, then your day's up and you don't need to diversify more income. By the same line of thought, if somebody's, for example, think to become or they're a mortgage broker, and let's say they get another license, for example, a real estate license, I would tend to think that it's very difficult to become successful at both, because both require a lot of effort and energy and time. But if you are diversifying your income, for example, with insurance, and you just are tweaking a little bit how you can position insurance in your mortgage application, well, I would agree with that, because that is kind of a upsell to what you're already doing.
Right. So it's not like you're trying to, yeah. Okay. That's good. Good answer. And so then how do you run, you got 21 agents that work at your company. You've got your own mortgage practice. So how do you run your balance your mortgage practice and family commitments?
I don't have any secrets. It's just being organized. I think it's just being organized and knowing really what is important. I have to thank my wife for reminding me of what's really important. But for me, just being organized, and there's going to be conflict all the time between different areas. But if you know before those conflicts arise, if you know what your priorities are, it will help you resolve those conflicts. Right? You will always have the issue of going to maybe to an event with your wife, or maybe a presentation with your daughter or with your son, and maybe because you have also an important meeting with a client at the same time, right? But focusing on your priorities and being organized will help you sort it out.
Right. So, and having an engineering background and the planning side of it is probably helpful for you.
And yeah, it helps a lot, and I think structure and organization is key on anything you do in life.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I'm going to move to the rapid fire questions. So these you can answer with a little shorter answers if you like. So what is the number one thing holding back most mortgage brokers from being successful?
Oh, in my opinion, is not being able to compete on anything else except rate. So if your only value proposition is rate, it potentially going to become very difficult for you in the future.
Right. And then what one thing or habit has made you successful?
In my opinion, would be discipline and courage. My dad always kind of taught me that starting is easy, but finishing is hard. So courage is all about starting something, but the discipline is what's going to help you go through all the things that you need to learn to finish what you decided to start.
Right. That's awesome. And do you have an internet resource, a software program that you use to make your business more successful?
Well, I'm in love with LinkedIn. I've been studying LinkedIn for about 3 years, and for me, it's huge. We would, I can talk about LinkedIn for hours and hours. I even created a meetup group called the LinkedIn Masters, just to, for everybody who's interested in learning more about LinkedIn to get better and to get more skills. But for me, it's LinkedIn. I can do so many things, contact so many people, follow up with people, open new connections. It's amazing.
Okay, so I said it's shorter answers, but I got to ask you about this. So do you use LinkedIn to generate mortgage business?
Yes. In fact, I just got a fairly large deal. A request at this time. We're just in the initial process of a commercial deal. I never met the guy before. He's the CEO of a major company here in Vancouver, and he contacted me through LinkedIn, and he just kind of saw my profile or saw my activity in a group that I was involved with, and he emailed me, and we started the process.
So, because LinkedIn is something I use, basically, I don't really use it for anything except for sometimes finding people that I'm looking for. So give me some tips on how you recommend somebody should use LinkedIn if they're trying to grow their mortgage biz.
Well, one thing is going back to diversification versus focusing. So when I decided to learn LinkedIn, I had the following problem. I have a Facebook account, I have a Twitter account, I have a YouTube channel. I also have an account at Pinterest. So there's too many things. So I realized quickly that in the social media world, I needed to choose something, and I chose LinkedIn. And I've been studying for a number of years LinkedIn. So I try to go into every paid and free webinar that I can get my hands on and learn new things. And over time, I'm becoming better and better on LinkedIn. So if somebody has a question for me regarding trying to find something on LinkedIn or having a strategy to generate business, I've kind of developed some skills that help me do that on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, but I get contacts for questions and things like that generate business.
So are people approaching you? Are there questions initially just about how to use LinkedIn, or and then you're helping them solve some LinkedIn issues, and then they go, hey, wait a second, this guy's a mortgage broker, and then you get mortgage business, or how is that process kind of playing out?
Well, the issue is that on LinkedIn, in my opinion, a lot of people want to have a tactic, and there's tons of tactics, but I work on a strategy. For example, a strategy might be, let's say you wanna focus on, I don't know, commercial deals. Okay, if you wanna focus on commercial deals, you have to start initially thinking where commercial owners may be on LinkedIn, and then if it's a group, join that group and start adding value to the group. Post things that are had a lot of value to that group, and start connecting with people and commenting on other posts that are relevant to what you're doing. And when you start doing that, you start to develop online relationships. And the next step, in my opinion, is take those online relationships offline. So at the right moment, when there's enough value added or you know each other enough online, you can ask them for coffee or for lunch or for whatever, and then go to the next step. So for me, it's more of a strategy and a process versus a single tactic that works or doesn't work.
Right. It's not like you're sending out a spam or something, but you're just basically being there, being engaged, being in communities that would have an interest in something that you may be able to help them. And then over time, they keep seeing your name pop up in your profile. They're like, hey, wait a second, I need to check this. I need this service. This guy, I feel like I know him because I've seen him so many times. Then they reach out to you and you get business.
Yes, but before you do all that, the very first thing you need to do in LinkedIn is to have an extremely good profile, because I found this is a very important difference between LinkedIn and Facebook. When I'm connecting with somebody on Facebook, if I go to their Facebook page, I have no idea about the person. Like personally, I may know that they've been in an airport or they've been in a coffee shop or their birthday or whatever, but I don't know much about the person. On LinkedIn, it's totally different. The very first thing anybody does on LinkedIn when they see somebody in any area is check their profile. So they go to their page, and in their page they will see, their professional connections, the group that they belong to, their recommendations, their everything. So you get a feeling of where that person is. It's like your first impression in front of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start working on LinkedIn and you don't have a well-designed and professional layout, then it's better you don't do anything.
Right. And so anybody listening, I'm going to put a link to your LinkedIn account. They need to go check your LinkedIn account out so that you know how to do it. And then that'll be helpful, right? I mean, it's a place to start. Obviously, the training is helpful and the courses you've taken, but if they want to get at least a sense of how a profile should look, a thoughtful profile, they should go check you out.
Yes. And in the meetup group, I do training sessions where I said, this is what you need to do in order to create a professional LinkedIn profile. So, and what I've seen is that if you're serious about LinkedIn, you will do it. The issue is when you just want to get the information, and to create a professional LinkedIn profile, it's going to take you a few hours, and you have to revisit that every few months to upgrade it or whatever, right? So it takes a lot of effort and energy, and unless you know where you want to get, you won't go through that process because it's time consuming and it's effort, right?
Right. No, that's good. Good advice. So that was a short answer question, but it was very interesting to me, the LinkedIn. So I had to jump on it. If you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be?
Well, I would recommend two books. One is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a Mexican author. It helped me so much in business and in life. And the other one would be The Little Book of Contentment. And if you allow me, I'll send you a link because this is a free download. So it's a book also about just being happy and successful on where you are right now versus where you want to be.
Okay, so yeah, send me that. That'd be awesome. And so here's the last question, which is one of my favorites, the DeLorean question. You ever watched the movie Back to the Future?
Yes.
So remember the car, the DeLorean with the funny doors? Well, if I could put you in the DeLorean and set the time to your first day as a mortgage broker 12 years ago, and I said, okay, you're going to go back, you're going to talk to yourself, and you're going to give yourself 3 pieces of advice so that your business is bigger, so Mortgage Labs is bigger and better today, what 3 things would you tell yourself?
One thing is all mortgage brokers are of course worried or working towards a higher volume, which is sales. So I've always had in my mind that sales equals exposure times conversion, but I never had that clarity. So exposure means exposing yourself to a lot of people, and conversion means if you expose yourself to somebody, is that going to be a paid business for you? Okay. So when I focus on those only 2 things, exposing myself more and converting those exposures into paid business, sales will automatically increase. Right. So that'll be number 1. Number 2 would be, this is also an area that I've given lots of thought. In my opinion, there's 3 types of mortgage brokers that I've seen around. One would be people who base their value on the rate only. There's other brokers that work on strategies for the client. And the third one would be people who have built up trust with clients. So to be able to stay long-term in the mortgage industry, I think you have to deal a lot in strategies and trust. So going a little bit deeper on their mortgage need versus staying only at the surface level with the rate. Okay, so that's the second thing that I always have to remind myself. And the third one is actually I'm learning that from you, Scott, which is network with other mortgage professionals. Since I started Mortgage Lab, and I've had the privilege of working with great advisors, for example, Stuart Strong or Krista Clement or Robert or Boyko. I've learned so many things from them. Carolina, my assistant, is gold. Every day I learn one more thing from her. And just by working together as a community, it speeds whatever you're doing big time. So we should be talking, if you're with one network, it's very good. You should be talking to people at DLC or Mortgage Alliance or Mortgage Architects. Between all of you, there's so many perspectives and so much knowledge and professionalism that you will go faster. At the beginning, I didn't do that. I was trying to stay in my own cocoon, and I network with other professionals because I felt that I was competing against them. But now it's totally different. I'm not competing against anybody. It's just how much you can grow and how much you can develop yourself.
Right. That's really good advice. And I'm totally hooked on that. I'm convinced that there isn't a problem somebody's having in their mortgage business today that somebody else hasn't already solved. The challenge is figuring out, okay, how did they solve it, and where do I, how do I tap into that problem that's already been solved? So you'd said three things: more exposure and conversions, focus on strategies and building trust, not on rate. And then the last thing was network with other professionals so that you could learn and share and get grow faster.
Yes, 100%. You betcha.
Awesome. Well, Camilo, I've really appreciated this interview and your time, and the LinkedIn stuff is totally new to me because you're the first person in 42 interviews that has said, hey man, LinkedIn rocks. So anybody is going to have to check this out. So how are you guys hiring at all?
Yes, I'm hiring brokers. The type of broker that would best fit Mortgages Lab would be somebody that is not happy at where they are right now, and that they would like perhaps to focus on areas that they see lots of growth, such as mortgage renewals. I think renewals have tremendous opportunities and growth for anybody, and there is business for everybody by tons. It's just focusing on renewals. That's something that I kind of have an expertise at, and I love to do.
Okay, awesome. And where can people find you online?
Just my LinkedIn profile, or if they want to check out the company website, mortgageslab.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, Camilo, I really appreciate your time, and I hope you absolutely rock the rest of your year.
Thank you very much, Scott, for this interview. I really, really like it.
Want to learn from the top 5 mortgage brokers in the country? Then you have come to the right place. Join Scott Peckford on I Love Mortgage Brokering.
Hey Broker Nation, Scott Peckford here. Have you joined our VIP club for mortgage brokers yet? If not, you're missing out. We share exclusive content not available on the web or the show. We share scripts, step-by-step guides, and other insider tips to help you save time and make you more money. I can't tell you how many times after I turn off the recorder, a guest starts sharing some awesome advice or a script or a tip, and I take the best of this and share it with my VIPs. If you want to get on the list, visit ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. That's ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. Oh, and one other thing. Since this is exclusively for mortgage brokers, there is a skill testing question. Good luck, and I hope you continue to rock your mortgage biz.